Who's gonna start?
Do you want to introduce?
Sure, okay. What's up, guys? Logical analysis. How's it going? We are not experienced in any way, but we're gonna figure this out. We're bound to figure this out. So, how is it going? What's jolly? Never said that word before. Okay. My name's Trevor,
And I'm Kat.
and yeah, and this is the logical analysis podcast. We are really excited to start this. We just can't compose ourselves right now, so just bear with us.
So, we will kind of cover a variety of just surface level topics. Since our world is kind of crazy.
This world is messed up. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah.
This world's really messed up. So we're just trying to give you guys a different perspective on life, because a lot of the stuff out there is just completely false and unlogical.
Yes.
So this is definitely for people who just want to get cold hard facts. That's the end of the day. That's really what this is for. And yeah, there's a lot of people who are very mentally unwell during these days, especially after the whole pandemic. So yeah, I want to give you guys an outlet, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and like a biblical perspective from youth in Canada. We hear a lot of news from America and all that, but I feel like Canada doesn't get as much love. So we're here to give you a Canadian viewpoint on all these issues and many topics to cover. I mean, mental health has been, I don't know, like a whole lot, since it's not really my area. I don't know. But I know it has spiked not only during COVID, but after. It has like a huge effect on especially youth, like in the teen years or young teens, more than really any age group. And, all the isolation didn't help. Like we were made for community. We were made for a relationship with each other. And if you deprive, especially whether it's a child or a teen, of that like really affects you mentally. Because yeah, we're like, God made us for a relationship with each other. So isolation is definitely not going to help us in any way.
Yeah, for sure. I That's the other thing, is that, like, going back to like what you said about like Canada and the news. Like, it's funny because you hear all this news stuff from American politics and stuff, and everything's being questioned over in America, but the same things are happening in Canada.
Yeah.
And it's just not being talked about. So this is definitely something that that's filling the gap for that, for sure.
Mm.
So yeah, this past year has just been wild for just the state of Canada as a whole. I mean, we had the whole Freedom Convoy, the whole Emergencies Act. We had a bunch of laws come out, like gun laws and Bill C-11 and all that stuff. So that's definitely something that's been going crazy. So what are your thoughts about the whole gun laws that's come out?
Oh man. I mean, I'm someone who likes guns, and that it's really frustrating because, Trudeau says he's not, affecting hunters and farmers who use guns all the time. He's trying to, basically, he thinks he's trying to ban like assault rifles and, killings, but the hunters and farmers, that's not even like, that's not their area. They hunt to provide food from their family, or they defend their property, right? So up here in Canada, we don't have, like, you can't carry a gun on you like in America, which, yeah. But he's really impacting the lives of those who use guns as a tool and not like a weapon to assault people
Yeah.
with, right? So like, there's a huge list of rifles and different guns that he's restricted, and now you either can't buy it or you have to have like a new license for or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely not like it used to be, and that's all happened in this year. It just
Even getting a gun is just hard enough. Like you have to go through a whole process. Like you have to get like a license. You have to go through classes.
yeah,
You have
exactly.
to be mentally stable. Like if you have any history with like suicide or anything like that, you basically can't get a gun.
Hmm.
Like if you go to the doctor and they say that you're mentally unwell, they basically have the right to take your gun. Like it is that insane over here in Canada, and it's always been like that. It's been like that for years, but now we have, and the ironic thing is, like now we have that plus the fact that you can't even basically hold a pistol in your house. Like it's insane. And the ironic thing is that the liberals are using the like the argument that guns are killing people, and yet what what are the criminals using? Are they registered guns, or are they unregistered guns that are being not being accounted for and being used for unhealthy ways?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. So I don't understand where the logic is coming from there, but
Yeah.
yikes.
Like it's not the gun's fault for killing someone. It's the person behind it. It's like, in the Bible, um Cain used a rock to kill someone. Like you can literally use anything, and it's not the restricting of guns. Like yeah, I understand like some, you're not going to get a fully automatic um rifle. Like not anyone can get that. And I think that's smart.
Hmm.
Like you don't want to just like give that ability to buy a gun, like a machine gun for anyone. But yeah, to restrict like hunting rifles is like ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all using like that narrative that it's for the Canadians, for safety, and it's like a hunting rifle. Like bro, like come on. Like
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's messed up for sure.
Yeah.
And it also, like, bringing back to like the Bible and stuff, like yeah, it's the same thing. It's like God made stuff for a reason, and people have just been using it for unholy ways, like killing people.
Hmm.
Um, so it's biblical, right? I mean, like a frying pan has been made for cooking, but people use it as a weapon. I mean, anything again, like what you said, anything can be used as a weapon,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like, and not to like, anything is powerful, right? Like a gun is like definitely a pretty powerful weapon for sure. But like hunting rifles is where you got me. I don't understand that
Yeah.
logic.
Like you should
I,
never um like you have to treat them with respect, right? Like, I was taught like you never, even if it's like a fake gun, we were taught not to point it at someone and pretend to like, I mean, Nerf guns are a different thing, but
yeah.
just to always like, you have to treat it with respect and know the power it's capable of. But you can't restrict everything that's going to be dangerous. It's just like a parent, like, telling their child they can't do anything dangerous because they might hurt themselves, right? You have to give the people freedom to um, do what they want within the law, right? You're not giving people like free reign to like kill is like obviously like one of the worst sins in the Bible, right? It says do not kill. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Defiling.
yeah, exactly. But you have to give people free reign to a point. Um, so it is like it's a free society. We're not in a communist country, and I feel like Canada's definitely going in that direction, which is really scary to think because a lot of the people nowadays they don't think for themselves. They think the government is like doing what's best for them, and really they have a plan. Not like, yeah, we hear all this stuff, but they have a plan that we may not fully understand, and that's kind of scary because like they're slowly taking away our freedoms. Even just talking about guns, like that's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but even freedom of speech, like there's all these bills coming out, and a lot of the time I've noticed that something is distracting the people, um, and then when they're distracted, all these bills come out, and you have like no say over it because it's already passed, right?
Yeah, I was very reminded of like how much governments hide from you. Like I remember the whole Area 51
Oh my
stuff that
goodness.
came out like in 2018 or stuff like that, right? I recently like I was like, this is interesting. I just want to see like why the whole like what really went down because I was not really like into like the whole stuff
Hmm.
when that happened. Um, and it I learned the first gate to Area 51 is 2 hours away from its destination, and you will be shot
What?
on sight if you enter that gate, and it's the first gate.
Wow.
So think about that, right? And it's like, I'm not like some free the aliens kind of guy. Like I'm not like that kind of guy. But like, it makes you really wonder, like, what are they hiding in there, right? It's like 2 hours away. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like back to what you said about respect, like, just don't point it at people, right? It's the same thing with like anything, right? Like opinions and stuff.
Oh yeah,
And that's
totally.
another thing that's really been um shot down this past year or so. You know, media is just silencing everything. People are making like Rumble and all the other like obscure media you could say is going really popular nowadays because like everything's being censored and everything's being flagged. So it's definitely makes you wonder how much stuff has been censored for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Talking about respecting authorities, like our especially, whether it's usually the younger generation now, I feel like has lost respect for really everything, anything. Especially authority because they can do anything. Like respecting
Mm-hmm.
veterans, right? Like again, I was raised to respect really anyone, whether it's the janitor or it's the CAO, right? Like have the same respect for both of them because they're human beings and they have a
Mm-hmm.
job to do, right? And that's kind of a sensitive topic when it comes to government, especially. It says in the Bible to like respect authority, respect your master. But,
Mm-hmm.
where does it come in when the government is going against God's law? We're supposed to respect God's law above man's law. And yet we're still supposed to treat authorities with respect, right? And that's just something that's definitely gone out of our society. Like I feel like especially the young generation, we don't have as much like human decency, like respecting others, whether it's
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
For sure. Like I remember, it made me think of like the story in the Bible where Jesus was angry at the corrupt money stuff
Mm-hmm.
in the temple, right? And it's like, you could be like, again, in the Bible it says, don't like you can be angry, just don't sin in that anger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same thing with like respect. It's like, we have to be respectful, so don't cuss out the political leaders and stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's also like, we can be angry at them as long as we're not like, we gotta love them as people. It's just we're angry at what they're doing, right? And we're not angry at the person. We're
Mm-hmm.
angry at what they're doing. So I think that's something that yeah, definitely been like forgotten about. We're just gonna, I mean, and that's everything. I mean, look at Twitter. Twitter's Twitter's interesting.
Yeah.
Twitter's just bombshells everywhere. Yikes. No respect for anybody. Just like, I'm gonna troll you. I'm a like anything they can do to just get under people's skin nowadays.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Like when we're angry, we're supposed to be like righteously angry. Like yeah, like God gets angry at our sin and whatever, but he doesn't like it's not he doesn't sin, obviously he's God, he's perfect, but we're not supposed to, like you said, sin in our anger. And so when if someone's doing something that is, whether it's unjust or not right or goes against God's commandments or his laws or whatever, we're supposed to, go to that person and bring it up, right? And say, like, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I still love you as a person, but we're not supposed to act like that. And, it's different when, on social media, whatever. But you're like going to that respect thing. You're supposed to love and respect the person, which is really hard to do, especially nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like people, they have all these ideas and they, have these weird lifestyles. Not that, it's hard not to judge, but as Christians, like we want to see them go places. You want to help them, but not everyone's like willing to receive help, right? So you just have to show God's love by not accepting their behavior, but loving them as a person. There's a big difference, and I feel like a lot of people, especially not Christians, don't know that line, right? They're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't feel loved by you, which like we're supposed to, make them feel loved, but not accept their sinful behavior, right? So that's
Yeah.
a it's a hard balance too. Um,
I think
yeah,
support and acceptance is very two different things for sure.
definitely. Yeah.
Like, and a lot of people think it's the same thing, but it's like if you're supporting something, you are actively saying like, yeah, keep going, this is good, right? And then there's acceptance where it's like I accept you as a person, I don't accept what you're doing, right?
Yes.
So it's like I accept you as a person because you're human, you're a person, I respect you because you're literally, we're on the same level here, right? Like
Mhm.
there's no like we're people. So I like accept the person, but just don't accept the sin.
Exactly. Yep.
So there's yeah, no, there's definitely like some misconceptions with that, and that's really where the church divides too,
Mhm.
because there's Christians that support the LGBTQ, um, and that's really where people divide because a lot of people have left Christianity just because of that reason. It's like, oh yeah, that's hateful, that's hateful, that's. It's like no, we're not hating the people, we're hating what they're doing.
Mhm.
So big misconception there for sure.
Yeah, and I know some churches do, um, yeah, have definitely blurred the line between the support and acceptance thing and the love thing, right? They say, "Oh, God is love, like he loves all of us." And that's true. He is a God of love, but he doesn't just condone like we can't do everything. He has laws in place to protect us. Like he doesn't have laws just to stop us from doing things and to keep us in one place, right? He wants us to live life free, right? That's freedom from sin. And
Hmm.
um, I know some churches, especially, some of the more liberal or left leaning, have definitely taken the stance and support, like actively support the LGBTQ community, um,
Yeah.
which is definitely not right. That also kind of leads into the how churches, or the church, I guess there's different branches, I guess, but um, it hasn't been like there are some churches that are like having revivals, like the and the Asbury revival or whatever in the university, right?
Hmm.
That is, man, that's crazy. It's so inspiring to see, like, and they're all young people, right? And that's the main, like, the group of people who are leaving Christianity is the young generation who, they want to love their neighbors who are um, in the LGBT community, but again, they don't know that line between support and acceptance and um, loving them for who they are and not what they're doing. But just the the churches that are like wavering, they don't they don't stand on all of the words, like the word of God, as strongly as they need to and that we're called to. And that also,
Hmm.
like, if our church, as all Christians, the church of God, if we stood on our principles and um, weren't wavering from that, I feel like our society would definitely be much more different because you have all this, the things that are allowed and the churches allow, like all the demonic normalization these days, especially in the States. You see it with all those weird performances and stuff. um
To say the least.
oh my goodness, yeah, I don't know how to even describe that, but yeah, it would be different. Like I am reading this book. It's Freedom by Kevin Swanson, and it's
Oh
looking
yeah.
at um, firstly the history of liberty in North America, and
Hmm.
where it's going now. Like, we've lost a lot of liberty, and people who don't, like, there's so many people who don't see that, whether it's Christians or non-Christians alike. Like, we have, whether it's, I mean, we talked about the freedom of speech and all the censorship going on and the restricting of guns and all that. Those are just like small steps in place for a communist government. And I mean, it's like really socialist right now. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but the church needs to be stronger. And I feel like a lot of churches like just go along with the government. They have been. Um, and whether it's putting restrictions in place during the pandemic, whatever, and when they shut down, like it says in the Bible, I think it's in Hebrews, that says we are not to stop gathering, and that's a like an important verse, especially during the pandemic. We're not supposed to be isolated, and that goes back to the relationship thing of like the Christian community. You're supposed to have community like supporting you and building you up, and we're supposed to turn to others to pray for us. And when you're not gathering, especially at church, like that is it's going against what God said. Like, it's not what a church should be like. It should be a place that is always open
Hmm.
for community. And I've definitely noticed in my area that there's a lot of churches that just went along with the government and didn't meet. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like my church was really good with it. Like they were really like they would do like the bare minimum of what the government said because they just did not want to stop that interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And like they were like, they didn't like, they basically like required them to wear masks when they were singing, which was so stupid.
I know.
Right? It's like, how do you sing with a mask on? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But what they did is they put like shields around the microphones, and it's technically considered face covering.
Mm,
Don't know how,
yeah.
but they pushed it, and it was really good to see. And like, for sure. And like, you made me think of that quote where it's like, "United we stand, the division we fall." Right. So
Yes.
it's like we are very much more stronger when we're united. Right. And that's exactly what the government is pushing for, is division, because they want to break down this country. That's exactly what they're doing. At least I think.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I think for sure, I think we're seeing the Bible, and we're seeing these Christian principles that the country was built on fading away. They're pushing that out of the, like, if you, like, the founding fathers of America, they built their stuff on the Bible and biblical principles. Same with Canada. So when we're seeing this getting pushed out of the Constitution, and just the decisions they're making, like, you can see, like, that's the downfall of our society, right? And then again with like demonic stuff normalizing, like pornography, all this stuff that's just being normalized in society. That is the very definition of the downfall of society.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Definitely.
we're starting to see good become evil, and evil become good.
Yep. And
That's definitely,
yeah.
yeah,
That's
scary
exactly
stuff.
what the Bible says, like warns about in Revelation. Like, we're seeing so many signs now. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Um, and what you said about uh, like the nation being divided, it says that right in the Bible. It's like both a kingdom and a house. A house divided is will fall, and same as a kingdom divided will fall. And like, I mean, we have a very society has kind of left that Christian background behind, and it's really sad to see. And I
Hmm.
know like founding fathers of like America and Canada would like they'd just be amazed in not a good way at
Yeah,
how
for sure.
like how their country is like the state of it now. Like people like hundreds, thousands of people have fought for these countries for the freedom of it, and now it's all being ripped away. Like, we're not supposed to let that just happen. Like, especially us in the younger generation, we're supposed to stand up for our country, especially because we're the coming generation of workers and
Hmm.
students and people running this country. And so if we don't do anything about it, it's just gonna things are going to slide and our freedom's going to be taken away completely. And so, yeah.
This the scary thing is like, yeah, like what you said with the veterans and stuff. Like, imagine fighting for your basically, like, you're risking your life, like, literally, right? Like, you could be shot at any moment, and you're fighting for your freedoms, and people, you're just seeing, oh yeah, guns taken away. We're gonna silence the media too. We're gonna do all this stuff. Isn't that the if that was me, like, that's scary to me in a way too. But like, imagine that being taken away from you, that you literally went into war for.
Yeah.
Like, that's heartbreaking, and like, yeah, man, it's just sad to see, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
And the older generation is also dying out, so no, they don't really have a voice anymore to really defend that, and that's also really sad.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to the youth, us, to either speak out against that, or to go with the flow and watch society fall and crumble in front of our eyes. That's really how it, like, that's it's harsh, but
Yeah.
that's the reality, for sure.
Yeah, and I know, like, sometimes it can be really easy to, be depressed and, like, just complain about how our society is. I mean, it's good to see how it is, like, people are behaving nowadays and how much we have strayed from God's law. But we were placed in a time such as this for a reason, right? We were not like,
Exactly.
I'm like, oh, it would be amazing if I just was born like 20, 50 years ago. But we weren't meant to be in that time. We were meant to be here to fight for what we believe in, to fight for um, the church and God's people, and to be united in that. And so it's easy to
Yeah.
just see the dark side of things nowadays. It is good to be aware of it so we can fight against it and um, all that. But it's easy to go down that dark and deep hole of like just focusing on that. We got to focus on what we're gonna do about it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like, I think it's pretty evident that we're gonna probably move into, like, we're moving into a recession currently. As you can see, like, the trades are falling. Uh, Too many people are going into university, and not enough people are going to there. Like, we can see, like, and like inflation, gas prices, all this stuff. It's happening, right? And unfortunately, like it you could look at it and it's like, this is gonna be a tough time, but like, in the toughest times, people grow.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's exactly, it's kind of moving on to my next point of why society is kind of falling. Is the other reason is, if you look at the older generation, they grew up, they had to work, essentially. They had to work hard, because if not, they would die, they would be starving, right? Nowadays, governments are handing stuff out to you. You can kind of have a good, stable, like, at least you can eat, right?
Yes.
At least most people can. I'm not saying everyone, but like, it's definitely a lot easier to survive, right? Because there's a lot of different government programs for that. Like, homeless shelters exist now, which I don't know how much they were existing too much back then. And that's the problem with society, is that we've been living in the good times, and, as you could say, and we now have a generation that thinks that they don't have to work. They don't have to, they don't have to do hard labor to survive, because they think that it'll just be given to them. And that's kind of why we have a society of, like, men and women who are just weak, and like, weak is a strong word, but it's true. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have like a good moral ground to begin with, and then in like, in addition to that, we have unstable mental health. We have, just lazy people in general, right? And that stems from the normalization of, like, pornography, which I'm not going to go into, like, the whole effects of that, but it's definitely playing a factor with that. So,
Yeah.
for sure, like, society is, we're living in the good times, right? And so tough times create tough people. It's really
Yeah.
the reality of it.
Yeah. Exactly what you said. Like, yeah, tough times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. So it just cycles,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Hmm.
we got to I feel like, I mean, yeah, there's so many ways of making an income, and I know not all of them are physical labor, but I feel like everyone needs to experience like what it is to work hard at whatever you're doing, whether you're in a trade, whether you're in like starting a business. Like, we're yeah, like we're very comfortable, and we're not comfortable with taking risks and taking responsibility for our own actions, right? Like,
Hmm.
a lot of people in the young generation don't know what it is to work at, you know, work hard at something. And I'm not saying everyone, like, yeah, there's people who are like super ambitious and who go after, but like, I'm just saying, like, in general, like, I mean,
The
yeah,
problem. Sorry, you can go.
no, you're good.
The problem is that like you can like yeah like what you said. There's a lot of different forms of income, and that's great. But there's also it's a lot of jobs are ruining society. I mean, any woman could just hop on some sort of website, sell their nudes and make them like people have done that.
Yeah.
It's true and it's disgusting, but it's true, right? Like people can literally make a living off of that. And if you think about that, like that's not only ruining the dignity of yourself who make the people who make that,
Hmm.
but also the people who consume that stuff. And like that's the very definition of a downfall of a society. Like
Yeah.
and again like yeah, physical labor is something that is I feel like is necessary because it's hard work, right? And that's when you really think about how hard work is, you really like begin to appreciate like even like the most simplest jobs in society, like janitor, right? Imagine sweeping up a kid's vomit off of like off of the school floor every day. Like that's that's not something everyone wants to do, but there's people that do that, and like it's really you have to find respect for that because
Hmm.
it's not easy for a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely really really respectful to see those people as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like someone needs to do those jobs, and the people who do them, um, like it's really like some of those are super humbling jobs, and it's good to just appreciate and show your appreciation for them because, I mean, someone has to do it, right? And
Yeah.
without like, we can't live in a society where there's people who don't work in the trades, right? Like, you have all these engineers or carpenters or people like plumbers. Like, you need those people, and like,
Exactly.
I have huge respect for those who are doing hard jobs. And then, you see, yeah, I understand there's jobs like running a business. Sometimes you need like to sit in an office, but I feel like there's so many people working for the government and working in office jobs that really like doesn't really get you anywhere. I don't know. That's kind of my
Hmm.
point of view. I know there's lots of jobs, like there's so many jobs out there. But this goes into another topic like oil and gas, how the government is trying to replace that with, clean energy or whatever all that stuff is. Like, that, like thousands, like probably millions of people who work in oil and gas would have no job if you. And I mean, there's so many other points like how it it would not create a good society, but just the job part of it, where like that's especially Alberta, because like oil and gas is a huge part of the economy in Alberta. And if you
Oh
if
yeah.
you take those jobs away, like, you're depriving so many people of jobs, and how are you going to replace that, right?
I yeah, I mean if you look back at COVID, like they fired all those unvaccinated nurses. Now, I just saw this on the news a couple days ago. Now they're making a program where you can go across Canada and work at different nursing locations. You can't just like work in a province wide. You know why? Because they're running out of nurses and doctors. I wonder why. Maybe it's because
Yeah.
you fired half of them. Like I don't know. Maybe like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
so it's so it's sad and um it also reminds me of like trades, like the school system basically conditions you to. I mean, I don't know if you guys, people listening, have this experience, but for me, I have never had a teacher who says, "Oh yeah, you can work in the trades if you want." I have never had that. It's always you got to go to uni, get hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt,
Mm-hmm.
get a good job you love that might not pay, and that's it. What would happen to society if we had too many engineers, not enough trades workers?
Yeah.
You need the trades workers. You need the trades workers to have a functioning engineering society too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you need, like, they're both codependent. So you can't have one of the one or the other. It's codependency. So there's definitely some problems with the school system because they condition kids to think you have to go to university. Like, you don't have to go to university. You
No.
can definitely have some other forms of income. God forbid not do anything of that kind of weird stuff that I was talking about before. But, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can make an income not wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars on
Yeah.
a job that you basically have to pick to have for the rest of your life. And yeah, no, it's and then you have kids who don't even they don't even know basic life skills, man. Like, it's just sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really sad. Yeah. And part of that, like, it's kind of two things of like how a lot of businesses or jobs, like, they can't find people who are willing to work. Part of the reason is, yes, they fired a bunch and a lot of companies didn't hire them back. And then the other part is, like we were saying before, like, our generation, there's so many people who don't want to work and they rely on the government to give everything to them. And, you know, we have those programs like CERB or whatever. And I understand there's some instances where, yeah, maybe a single mom, like, who's struggling, like, she may need to rely on that. But for the majority, like, you can't just sit on your couch and accept the government's money. They have their hands in your life already. And, like, if you're accepting money from them, you're just relying on them more than you need to. And that affects, like, your freedoms and everything in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I was learning about consumerism in class, about how the more you buy, the more healthy the economy is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take away the people's money and just give them a set amount of income, like, if you take away the people's money by taxing the heck out of them and then giving them maybe 50% of that in a program, how do you think the society is going to function? Like, if you let people have their money and not tax the heck out of them, they're going to buy more. And when you buy more, the economy is going to be healthier, which means the prices will most likely go lower. Like, it's the whole thing, and, like, a lot of people don't understand that, and that's the thing. They're playing off of the fact that we're just going to brainwash people through the news, and then they don't think for themselves, right? So they don't have. And I just find it funny because it's like my teachers were pretty left wing, so it's just funny how they taught me about that, because it's like, isn't that what you not support, is buying things? Because apparently you like to tax the heck out of people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think public funding is appropriate in some circumstances, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there definitely needs to be, like, at least some work history involved, or at least have some sort of, like, license or, like, good reasoning to, like,
Yes.
be part of the program that you're applying to, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we talked about a lot of topics. It was kind of like just a surface level episode. We'll definitely go into some of these topics, many of them probably, deeper, and we'll have some facts and some research, trusted research, especially. Yeah, I think that went really well, and we kind of went through a lot of how both of us think, and how our society is looking at like the state of society nowadays. So yeah, thank you for listening. I hope you are interested in listening to more of our conversations about our crazy world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
just make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you like this podcast on YouTube, and if you're on Spotify. I don't know what you do on Spotify, but what do you do on Spotify, actually?
follow our podcast, and yeah, we hope you come back to listen to more of our exciting topics.
Yeah, for sure. This is obviously like an episode that would, you can kind of get the idea of what it would kind of sound like. But yeah, Yeah, we'll hope to see you again. Thank you for listening.
See ya.